and welcome to Vox Markets, and welcome to David Immelman, founder and chief executive of NHS digitisation specialist DXS International. How are you doing, David?
Hey, John. Hi. Great. I'm doing well, thank you.
Good
to see you.
Glad to have you on. Now you've just published your interim results. Top line and cash held steady, some good numbers in there, and that's been despite some difficulties in doing business with the NHS, which points to the resilience of the core business in terms of recurring revenues. Talk us through the key numbers and the highlights of, what's been a good performance in a difficult period.
Yeah. Although our revenue stream remains robust, which is testament to our model with the NHS, the fact that it only grew marginally has proved quite frustrating for us and disappointing, to say the least. Particularly when we know that we have NHS accredited solutions that align 100% with the NHS's vision for digital transformation. And, if I could quote the NHS, they say, to quote, "There is a need to adopt digital tools urgently and consistently to address our long-term goals." That's what they say. So, although we are frustrated, the fact that our systems are accredited by the NHS and they align, we will simply remain focused and persevere, and we know that the revenue is definitely going to grow in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like efforts are going to pay off because this is, as you say, is a much needed transformation, digital transformation that the NHS requires. So it just goes back to the numbers very slightly. The bottom line in the figures, profits were down, but actually, in a sense, that's almost a good thing because it reflects a non-cash amortization figure around the R&D you're doing. And it's that R&D that I think positions you so well for what's coming at the NHS. Talk about where you've been focusing your R&D efforts.
We have two key focus areas of investing in R&D. The first one are our smart referral systems. Now, currently, most of our revenue is generated from our referral system. And in collaboration with our users, we continually work with these guys, and these, by the way, are GPs, pharmacists, nurses, clinicians. And we work with them to continually innovate and improve our referral solution so that it can continue and improve the delivery of benefits to the NHS, which are reducing referral rejections, saving clinician time, and cutting down on waiting times. And recently we conducted a pilot with a fertility clinic, which was formally evaluated by an academic health science network. And the evidence showed that we reduced referral rejections from 36% to 0. I mean, it was amazing. We cut waiting times in half. And the final outcome was, and the estimation is that we could save, just across fertility clinics in England, £44 million a year. It's quite staggering. So that's the one area into which we continue to invest. The second area is what we call our expert care solution. And this is all about smart medicine optimization. What this boils down to is that there's a huge amount of money that is spent. In fact, 70% of the NHS budget is incurred by 26% of the population who have one or more long-term condition, like hypertension, diabetes, asthma, etc. We know that if these conditions can be treated quickly and also in conformance with best evidence medicine, these are the gold standards for treatment that are set out, there can be a huge saving. Now, let me give you an example. Take hypertension. In England, there are 8.5 million diagnosed hypertensives, another 3 million wandering around undiagnosed. The current level of blood pressure control is only 68%. It's low. The NHS acknowledges that if they could move that percentage to 80%, this would realize £180 million saving over a 3-year period. I mean, it's quite staggering, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a certain irony to it, because one of the challenges, these savings, as you've demonstrated, are there to be made. But one of the ironies is that the NHS budget issues have meant that they're not currently being implemented. But as well as these evaluations, you've been working on lots of initiatives, I understand, to unlock these bottlenecks, including one I think is particularly interesting, a risk sharing approach. Can you perhaps tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, as you say, our products are generally funded from an NHS central fund. You go through a process of accreditation, your products end up on an NHS catalogue, and this means that potential customers can go onto this catalogue. If they want to have your product, they can call it off and it gets paid for from a central fund. Now, this fund was frozen last year and in March, which happens every 3 or 4 years, depending on the period and the length of that framework agreement. And it was meant to have been renewed in 2023, in the summer of 23. We're still waiting, it's being delayed. What does this mean? It means that potential customers cannot go and procure on our products. And that is a definite block to us getting, achieving new sales and revenue streams. So what we've decided to do is to attempt, and we have not yet proved this, but we have researched it, we've investigated it, and we think we have a really good shot at implementing what we are calling a risk and reward strategy. And what this boils down to is we're putting together a plan where we will go to these integrated care boards. As you know, there's 42 of them within the NHS that control budgets. And basically, let's use hypertension as an example. We'll say to them, we'll take a risk. We'll come in at cost, for example. If we can move your blood pressure upwards, the control that is, they have a target where they want to achieve at least 80%. For every single newly controlled person that we can achieve, we want a percentage of what that means in savings to you. Now, if I take an average ICS or ICB, we reckon that over a 3-year period, we can save them at least £4.5 million. So what we are suggesting is that we want to go for a percentage of the upside. Come in at cost, percentage of the upside. In addition, we know that there are still barriers. The barriers are that these organizations have a lack of clinical resource. So we have collaborated with a company that provides clinical pharmacists as a resource, as a service to the NHS. And we're working with them so we can go and offer this as an actual service rather than just offer the technology. So it'll be a dual approach. And we're excited, we're hopeful. We think that could be appealing to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Innovative routes to market alongside innovative technology.
Yeah.
Talking of innovation, you've been awarded quite a significant grant from Innovate UK, which sort of really speaks to the usefulness of this solution in solving these problems throughout the NHS. In particular, this opportunity around hypertension, cholesterol, and diabetes. Perhaps tell us more about your work with Innovate UK.
Yeah. I mean, just for any viewers, anyone who's not familiar with Innovate UK, they are the UK's main organization that is there to promote innovation and to help products become commercially successful in the marketplace. So we are really excited that this hypertension solution of ours received, well, it was a joint grant between us and an organization called Health Innovate East. And we're going to be running a project over an 18-month period across 10 GP practices. The aim of this exercise, it will be to evaluate the financial benefits and demonstrate the evidence of how much this can improve and save the NHS. Now, of course, it's quite a long time. It's a fairly long period, but the evidence will be so compelling, which we totally believe,
Mm.
that we think it's going to go a long way to helping us grow this business. In addition, we have to, part of this grant is to add 2 additional long-term conditions to our algorithm. And those are cholesterol and diabetes. Because as we add additional conditions, we increase the savings to the NHS, and then that means additional revenue for ourselves.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, and a great case study to come down the track. Also, this is going to be supported, as I understand it, by patent protection. You're in the process of applying for a patent. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, part of the Innovate grant is that they do expect you to at least attempt to acquire a patent for your technology. Now, we all know that getting patents is easier said than done.
Mm.
Our team do have prior success in getting patents for solutions. So we have some experience. And we have embarked on the process of having a look at whether or not we can actually successfully achieve this. I must just emphasize, though, that the grant, this is not a dependency. The grant is not dependent on that. But it would be, of course, it would be a nice to have if we can succeed with getting a patent.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking outside of the NHS, you know, this solution, you know, has huge potential for not just for the UK, but for other healthcare systems around the world. I understand you're in the process of negotiating your first international license agreement. Tell us a bit more about that.
We are. However, it is still confidential. You know how these things go. Okay. But actually, we're talking to organizations in the US, but we're also talking to organizations in Africa, Africa/India, because oddly, those countries have very big problems. They have such a lack of clinical resource, and they have a desperate need to deal with problems such as hypertension, you know. So that's what we're doing, and we think it could be really exciting. But as I say, unfortunately, I can't share the names of these organizations yet.
No, that's completely understood. But as you know, as you say, it's a significant global opportunity. As I understand it, 1 billion people with high blood pressure globally. It's huge.
1 billion people, of which they estimate 8 million a year, die prematurely just because of high blood pressure. I mean, it's shocking.
Yeah.
And this demonstrates why there is such an incredible need for digital solutions. There's no alternative.
Yeah, indeed. You know, obviously, you're making some huge progress in delivering that, and you know, improving healthcare outcomes around the world. David, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and best of luck with your ongoing efforts.
Thank you so much, John. Much appreciated.
Thank you.